Hello there, this is Cookies. I have turned 91 of LA Erytheia, and we were receiving more of Arco's Death Basket. So we see a number of boosters and useful items and gems, and yeah, just a whole bunch of stuff for us to use to try and kill the snakes with. Uh, in terms of, we did get hit with the flames from the sky. Uh, I don't know. I'm sure many mages died, but it only ever tells you one of the mages, which isn't super helpful. We got cast Vile Water a bunch. A couple of dire portents went up. And we threw out a Ghost Riders, Terracotta Army, Arouse Hunger, Mind Hunt. We threw up Whoosh, another dire portent. So let's take a look at the globals really quick, since so much changed. So I believe this is the turn that Ulm put up Astral Corruption and Gift of Nature's Bounty. I think Dark Skies is what Satis has put up. So it'll be hard to invade Satis, and it'll be hard to cast magic. Astral Corruption, in particular, really isn't doing us many favors, but it is helpful for Ulm. So we'll just have to kind of like grin and bear it. I've complained enough in the Discord, so, but to kind of go over, I guess, some of the different things some of the different ways it affects us before we dive into the battles. It makes it very dangerous for us to mind hunt. We have a lot of mages getting horror marked here, and this could kill many of them. It turns off Gateway up to the Sea of Plenty, or makes it very dangerous. So it could be very difficult for us to defend this throne now if Satis assaults it, because we're completely cut off. Additionally, it makes it very hard for us to forge fire resistance gear for this flames from the sky. Makes it hard for us to forge morale gear for Wailing Winds. And it makes it difficult to afford the temp gem gens that have made it a little bit more bearable given all the gem baiting that we've been experiencing. And it also makes it harder for us to spend down this death basket and turn it into useful chaff and useful summons that we can use to keep Satis at bay. And it also turns off our own ability to whoosh. So climbing can't whoosh. So it definitely really affects us. It kind of makes this whole push for this throne kind of pointless, because with Arcane Corruption up, we can't really make use of this alteration discount. We don't have a lot of diversity in our soulless mage paths. So we do have some soulless mages from Life After Death, but most of them are, there's not really nature and death cross paths. Well, give me 1 second, the dog's barking. Okay, and I'm back. That was pretty distracting. But there are some people at the door. But yeah, I kind of forgot what I was talking about. So, but I do know I haven't covered the battles just yet. So let's go ahead and dive into those. So first up, we have some magic phase. And gosh, given the volume of these, maybe it'll be easier to cover on the strategic map. So we'll start over here near the throne. And we've got 2 fights here. So let's go ahead and cover the first one. So this is our Ghost Riders against the PD. All right. And then we go ahead and magic phase in some ghouls, but these guys stick around apparently. So they're just gonna come in and kill my ghouls. Probably something I could have tested or remembered. So, because I think I've done that a lot. And next up is on the last step swamp. So we go ahead and, or no, we get, I guess like pinged is kind of like it. It's more of a gym bait. So you can see we already threw up relief, we're throwing up a bunch of other spells. And this is, I don't know, 10 tomb worms and a Sauromancer. He's twice warned. We go ahead and doom everything, because why not? We're blowing all of our gems. Even though this guy has... I guess he could have thrown up like a Wailing Winds or something, but we end up stealing him. So, but we do get gem burned. And then over here, we have a couple of horror attacks. And these are just against, because Astral Corruption got put up. So all of our horror marked guys have a higher percentage chance of dying. So we lose 2 of them here. And then we go ahead and get gem baited here as well by 2 ghouls, 2 wolves, and this twice born guy with 4 gems. And we have an army of 800 here. So clearly we need to blow all of our gems on the most dangerous man on the battlefield. I suppose Wailing Winds could be in his script. Alright. Whoops. So we get gem baited there as well. And then moving over here to the kind of like northeastern front. We lose our PD here, so we've got a Vampire Lord and 236 Tomb Worms moving through here. And then we have a battle here on this fort. So we've got everything we could cobble together in the area, including our cubes, some PD, the fort PD, a bunch of Draconians, some Soulless, some Wolves, some Terracotta guys, some mages, including many of our higher-end mages. And on the flip side, we have a whole bunch of Tomb Worms. They're going to get Army of Lead and Anti-Magic. Although this could be Army of Gold. But he might play it safe and do Army of Lead. We have this guy with some water. So maybe he'll do Stygian Skin. I'm not sure. And then we have this guy for Winds of Death. Maybe like Wailing Winds and Rigor Mortis. We have a pretty cool thug who's going to do Divine Blessing. And we've got this guy with a Demon Bane. So let's go ahead and watch this one. So we go ahead and put up Light of the Northern Star. That does help the Golem. Got Relief, Wailing Winds by the Lich, Rigor Mortis. We go ahead and throw up Storm, because we were worried about Mass Flight Snakes. Let's go ahead and check. What did you cast? Quickening. Okay, that's good. And Anti-Magic. And Army of Gold. Okay, so he was trusting. So we can see that they have the Shock Mallows, but they've also got the Fire Res. And the Fire Res is useful against Erytheia, because all the Dedukos are based Astral and Fire. You can see that we've gone ahead and doomed his army. On our side, we've it might be hard to tell with a cube. Let's get a draconian. We've gone ahead and thrown up Army of Lead, Anti-Magic, Mass Regen, Fog Warriors, Will of the Fates, and some Weapons of Sharpness. So I think that's most of that. I don't think we had Winds of Death cast yet. Wailing Winds, and then Wither Bones. So yeah, no Winds of Death. I would have thought that we would have eaten some of that. Okay. Turn on team colored squares. So you can see that one wasn't super effective. We got a few snakes, but not very many. The cubes are doing alright. However, the cube strategy does have the issue that if you don't have enough of them, what'll happen is, as they slowly get killed, they'll release the snakes that they've like swallowed inside of themselves, and when those snakes get released, then they just regen back to full health. So not sure if I'm gonna stick with the cube strategy because I'm gonna have a hard time massing them. Maybe if I had 300 cubes, that would be enough of critical mass to make that strategy work. I think I'll just have to settle for other stuff in the meantime. Notably, a big part of our strategy for this fight was we didn't think we would win. So all the important mages retreated off the field. This guy hasn't yet, but I hope he will. But yeah, so most of the mages do have a retreat in their scripts. They're casting their big spells and they're leaving, and just leaving a smaller communion. So because a lot of those mages are somewhat irreplaceable for me, especially, I didn't know it would be under Astral Corruption, but especially under Astral Corruption. Although it's entirely possible if I had left some of them, maybe we can turn this battle, but it is a Rigor Mortis play, so it would have definitely felt like an all-in for the Mage Core in this area. We can speed it up. Unfortunate. Okay. I should try to get protection buffs on these fire elementals. So maybe like a second Army of Lead at the end of the script would be good. Yeah, they didn't really get much of anything. They don't have the mass regen either. Alright. Anyways, you can see how this one goes. So in terms of the attrition, we do take out one white mage and 98 of the tomb worms, but we also lose 13 Taducos, 8 mystics, a soulless mage, an adventurer, 28 of the draconians, our cubes, a lot of our chaff. So not the worst trade, but also not the kind of trade that we need for this region. So I was hoping for a little bit more. And is there any other combat here? Doesn't seem like it. So let's move over to the southern front. Oh, and did I do something here? Oh, we'll cover the battles with the other players after these. Alright, so we did try to continue to keep this fort under siege, so we did get hit by the flames from the sky, but we did bring in our Wraith Lord here to clean out the PD here. Alright. Now, we did bring this little Camazotz here with a Shade Mail, so we're going to try and sneak over here. Also, we got hit here. And this just looks like a little raiding party or a gym bait. I don't think this one gym baits, but it might. Yeah, it doesn't look like it did. And then there's a little bit of raiding action here. Some more werewolves against... we've got 3 Dedukos. Unfortunately, I probably should have scripted them some protection buffs in, like, a single square. I should have changed their script, is what I'm saying. If I'd done one square and done stacked some buffs, then they probably could have defended themselves from wolves. So that's a scripting error on my part. And then on this fort... So, one second. So if you remember the large army that was here and had this throne cracked, instead of storming, it opted to attack into Erytheia. I was chatting with the player, and I guess they were concerned about a bunch of gateway shenanigans, stuff like that. So they opted to try and put this fort under siege and secure more of the area. But they ran into the returning army, so we'll go ahead and watch this one. So here's the army. My favorite land shark, the shark. And then we've got a whole bunch of mages. We also have a contingent of soldiers of the setting sun here with their pearl blades. So that's pretty fun. We have some attack rear bait. We have some side bait. We've got our front lines. We've got some crossbows. We've got all sorts of stuff in here. Lots of mages. Well-supported army. Here we've got what looks like, I'm assuming there's Rigor Mortis and Wailing Winds in here. I don't see any sort of Winds of Death. And it looks like we've got anti-magic on the cards. So, I don't think... this army is pretty well supported, so let's go ahead and check it out. But feeling confident about this one. And I know I might have spoiled it from the map, but I think there's good reason to believe that an army like this should be able to take on unsupported snakes. Oh, we can definitely go faster than that. Here comes Doom. Every time you see most of the elementals, any of these big blasts or cleansing waters, that's a scripting error on my part. It means that I was probably doing something like resist magic after we'd already cast anti-magic, so the mage opted to do something else, or I was trying to cast some gemmed spell, and it had already been cast because normally I like to do redundancy, but I find out in this battle that it's not necessarily a good thing, because then the mage goes ahead and nukes themselves against this particular bless. And so I kind of over-scripted, and I had some incorrect scripts, especially if we put up Will of the Fates, and then we try and cast Personal Luck, or we put up anti-magic and then resist magic. They're just going to cast random attack spells, and they might use their gems on those. And so a lot of my Communion Masters kind of kill themselves off before they finish important buffs doing this. So, just kind of a note on what's going on. Yeah, because Cleansing Waters almost always has a Blood Vengeance line going back. Nevertheless, though, things look like they're going fairly well. We do have a lot of hoplites here, and we have a lot of these soldiers of the Setting Sun. I've started recruiting these guys again because they have base 14 MR. And so once buffed up, they can, and depending on the the Magic Dominion, stuff like that. They can get up to 18 or 19 MR. And that's pretty good to help them handle Blood Vengeance. So they, with all the buffs, they've actually turned into a good troop again in the late game. So, which they're 3 times the cost of a Hoplite, but they also do a little bit more damage than a Hoplite, and they have a big set of extra MR to rely on as well. So, is it 19 damage magic weapon? So, even if Satis tries to do Fog Warriors against these guys, it's not going to work out too well. And hopefully we can see the impact in the battle summary. So let's go ahead and check that out. So we found a bunch of gear from our different mages that nuke themselves. But we did kill off a golem, a Sauromancer, a number of different mages. We killed off 340 tomb worms. We gained, I think, 37 soulless mages out of 24, 25. So out of 54 mages that we lost, we got 37 back, which is pretty good. We lost the Hoplites, you can see, kind of went 1 for 1 in kills to deaths for about 250 of them. So they held the line. And the Soldiers of the Setting Sun, though, they actually killed 28 for only 50 of them and lost 5. So this is the stat line that's going to convince me to really start recruiting these guys again, even though they're pretty expensive. And maybe you can see it here. So yeah, we've started recruiting them again. So that was a really nice win, especially after the defeat in the north. And then here we get an accidental gem bait. So here we sallied forth the mages because we were gonna do a bunch of fire elementals and then have most of the mages retreat and just do what damage we could to the army and save as many of the mages as we could. But all we ended up finding was a couple of high priests, and they end up gem baiting this whole force. So you can see all the fire elementals that we do. So, alrighty. Which is unfortunate because now we don't have very many fire gems. We could potentially communion up to do air elemental spam. So I might have to transition to that. It is harder to create a front line with that, though, I will admit, and ideally we'd put buffs on it. Alright. So what are we doing this turn? We're bringing this army home to the throne. There's a high likelihood this army dies next turn, but we do need to protect this throne. I don't think we'll get lucky a second time. And then this army is going to do what it can. We are going to try and reinforce it with some additional mages. So we've got Communion Slave, Paralyze, Communion Master, Enslaved Mind, Frostfin, Storm, Will of the Fates, Power of the Spheres, putting in Large and Mist form. We got some Gifts from Heaven. The Mist form is probably an accidental double cast, now that I'm coming back to look at this, because we're also doing Fog Warriors. Unless it comes early enough. So this might be too late, but this is probably fine. Let's see, we got Divine Blessing, Fanaticism, Holy Avenger is nice. Some Enslaved Mind and Gifts from Heaven where we can. Light of the Northern Star. More Doom. And we're going to try and throw out Meteor Shower, see how that works. Fog Warriors, again with Storm. We've got some Army of Lead, so Dragon Teeth. Ground Army, Legions of Steel, the whole suite of nature buffs. And yeah, I think that's it. So you can see we're running a little bit low on chaff, but we've got enough. And then I'm not predicting a fight. I'm predicting at most a gym bait here. I don't think he's going to try and run these 150 into this stack. I don't think it would work well. So I'm not going to go ahead and cover that whole script again. You kind of saw it in the big fight. This army we're pulling back because it's been gem burned. I didn't have gem mules ready to go for it. And we're kind of low on chaff for this army anyways. And in case this one, because this one's also storming, so in case we take a lot of attrition from flames from the sky, I want to, like, even under Arcane Corruption, I just want to be able to defend this army. It might get gem baited. It'll be nice just to have this army coalesce. Hopefully we'll take less attrition on this one that way, and the storm will succeed. And we can take this fort. So there's going to be a little bit more duplication here. I didn't have the heart to go through and rescript the whole army, I don't think. So you can just see a whole bunch of stuff here. It essentially ensures that the whole suite of buffs that got cast by both of those armies gets, you know, there's redundancy and it'll get cast again, even if a lot of those masters end up killing themselves because the spell I told them to cast has already been cast, and so they don't think they need to do that spell. You can see a lot of gifts from heaven, a lot of enslaved mind, where I can, anti-magic doom, will of the fates, army of lead, weapons of sharpness. I did have a gem reload for this army, so this army will have gems equipped, and most of the casters should have enough for 2 battles, so that'll be really nice. So we got Hal Mass Regen, but I think we ran out of enough for this particular caster to do some of the other stuff. And we've got damage reversal on the Communion, Rush of Strength, a lot of Twist Fate in there where I can. Some Holy Avenger, Control Dead. Everything I can think of. Fog Warriors, Undead Mastery. This one can do all the nature buffs. He's going to be storming as well. He's still got his Shade Mail, but it's alright. And yeah, I think that's it for that army. And now for the most exciting thing that we're trying to rig up for the upcoming turn. I'll go ahead and cover this army. So we're pulling in all the remaining chaff. So we've got our Draconians, Great Eagles, Trolls, the last of our cubes, and our important mages. We're hitting it with more Undead Mastery, Rush of Strength, Storm, Anti-Magic, Power of the Spheres, Light of the Northern Star, Enslaved Mind spam, Master and Slave spam from our Wishcaster. So this is a high-risk move, but maybe it'll pay off. Got a little bit of Gifts from Heaven and Enslaved Mind spam. Notably, she is being told to retreat after she casts her 3 Master Enslaves. We got Army of Lead, Ground Army, Weapons of Sharpness. We do have some fins on here, Fire Fin, Frost Fin, Firestorm. The whole suite of nature buffs again, and a polymorph tacked on for good measure, because it's an AoE. We have Fog Warriors, Wind Guide for improved precision, although I think it only affects like bows and stuff, so maybe that's not necessary. And then we've got, yeah, Army of Giants to make our mages larger, help the Communion last longer. Including the Masters, maybe they can take an extra Blood Vengeance check that way. Life After Death, which we try to get into every battle if we can. And some Sow Dragon Teeth. So that's what we've got going on for the upcoming battle. We're recruiting where we can. As much as we can. We've spent all of our gold. We've already burned through the fire, water, and astral and nature income we've gotten from Arco. We still have some air, earth, and death that we can spend through. And our blood economy is struggling. Unfortunately, our tart that we really wanted to include as a Sabbath Master into maybe like a Wither Bones caster or something fun, unfortunately, is crazy this turn, so it feels the need to call the dead rather than actually help out in the time of need. And then we've got this guy sitting back with an LLP, which is kind of fun. So I think that's most of it. So I'll go ahead and... Oh, I almost forgot. We did see one battle between Cetus and Arco, so let's go ahead and watch that one. As Cetus storms the last of our good friend Arco, and then redirects all of his snakes onto me. We just have a few mages here against many, many snakes. The Tartarian's pretty cool. It's got a shroud for Air 3. The shroud does mean that a Flames from the Sky could trigger Blood Vengeance, as I found out earlier in this game. We've got a Vampire Lord, some mages. Definitely more mage support than normal. More Sauromancers, more Reborn. Some regular undead, and then a bunch of snakes. But yeah, I think that's most of everything. So Olm's nap continues to tick down. I think we're about to take potentially some more attrition, particularly in the south. So we'll see what kind of shape we're in when the snap does tick down. I'm hoping this push up here will draw all these forces through this narrow choke rather than through our more vulnerable bit to our capital. I think we'd struggle to defend a push around the southern end of this little lake here. And hopefully Cetus doesn't figure out that it's too dangerous for me to gateway to protect this throne. And because if he takes it, not only does he get the throne, but he gets the academy underneath, which opens up me to a lot more hostile action, because if you remember, these guys have gift of water breathing. So each one of them can bring, I think, 6 snakes. I think they're size 3. They could be size 4. 4 to 6 snakes with them. And it would just make it even more difficult to defend underwater. I could use water elementals, but then that also means I can't use those water gems as pearls. So, and it would allow him to do his own water elemental spam. So, all right, I think that's it, and I will see you in the next one in turn 92. Have a good one.